If ever there was a game that garnered one of the most interesting groups of fans, it would be the Final Fantasy franchise. And that's mostly due to the fact that these games almost never share storylines or characters, but rather aspects of the game, like summons, materia, or mythical creatures of which hold massive power to destroy that you will ultimately get to control as you play through the game. Another aspect many Final Fantasy fans know well is the typical turn-based combat where defeating enemies comes down to optimizing your turns with your team, relieving status effects, and buffing your team to shift momentum in your favor against some truly memorable battles that have been fought over the years. But over the past few entries of the franchise, combat as a whole has been shifting away from that and becoming something new entirely. And with Final Fantasy XVI right around the corner, we should all prepare ourselves for an entirely new experience. One of the most iconic things about Final Fantasy throughout the ages has been the beloved turn-based combat. Whether it be giving your team speed and attack buffs, utilizing a limit break, or unleashing a Guardian Force or Aeon, you were either queuing these actions up or waiting for a turn to utilize them. But with the release of Final Fantasy XV back in 2016 and the more recent release of the reboot and arguably best Final Fantasy game to date, Final Fantasy VII, it was clear that Square Enix was having their development team slowly step away from that style of combat. And though I found my love for the franchise with Final Fantasy X back in 2001, I have to say that changes such as this to the combat are long overdue, and 16 will be implementing the biggest changes yet. Upon watching only a few minutes of the combat for Final Fantasy XVI, it's clear that the game could almost be titled something completely different, marketed different, and passed off as another game entirely than a Final Fantasy title, going as far as to calling it Devil May Cry 6, but that's no coincidence. The combat director for Devil May Cry 5, Ryota Suzuki, was the lead battle director for Final Fantasy XVI, and when you look at the games side by side, they're pretty indistinguishable. Much like switching between weapons in Dante, Nero, or V's arsenal, you will be able to do the same with Clive, who is the main protagonist for Final Fantasy XVI. Clive will be able to shuffle between different icons to change the special abilities you'll be able to use as well as combo them together. Additionally, items are now assigned to the D-pad for the on-the-go usage, meaning combat will now be faster paced than ever and barely comparable to past Final Fantasy installments. A full breakdown shows each part of the PlayStation controller corresponding to an ability for Clive: square for attack, triangle for a magic-based attack, X for jump, and circle for an icon-based ability. Then, by pressing the R2 button, you reveal two special icon abilities that replace your square and triangle skills with special moves that once used will require a cooldown before using again. And at this point in the video, I'd recommend checking on your friends who enjoy turn-based combat. They're definitely not doing well. And finally, it should be mentioned that gone seems to be the times of managing a team of other characters, as Clive has been shown to be the only character you can input actions for, but perhaps that's for the better. Now, the changes to combat are a lot to take in on their own, but there's another pill to swallow after that one, and that's how the summons will work in Final Fantasy XVI. Traditionally, summons, guardians, or materia would be utilized in spectacular fashion. Massive mythical beasts would manifest and either deal massive damage to an enemy or fight alongside you. But now neither of those options will be available to you as the player in Final Fantasy XVI, as icons are now a power within characters, and when called upon, you become the icon and fight as them in grandiose engagements against other formidable icons and enemies. What does remain to be seen is whether or not you will be able to become other icons throughout Final Fantasy XVI. However, it has been displayed that you do have other icon abilities through combat, so does that mean that you have to acquire them, and do you have the ability to become them? Only time will tell. The Final Fantasy franchise is the type of game I would recommend any type of gamer to give a try. When I played my first Final Fantasy game, I had never had any interest in giving these types of games a shot before, and after I did, it changed the way I looked at games forever. Some of the best stories have been told within this franchise, and are still heralded as some of the greatest of all time. These games are timeless, and I believe that the big changes coming with Final Fantasy XVI are going to forever shape the way we see future titles coming from Square Enix. And with all that being said, what do you think of the combat changes in the icon battles? Are you hyped for them, or are you hesitant? I want to thank you all for watching this video, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next Insight Gaming video.